Welcome everybody to the A team. And I'm really excited about the call tonight because we have a couple of special guests. And I think you're going to be really happy with the call tonight, the energy of the call, the values of the call. I love the A team call. As you know, I was talking to someone this week from the industry again, and is actually a member of the Direct Selling Association in one of our other markets. And I was explaining to him what we were doing on the 18 call. And he said, "Oh, I am so happy to hear that. What a great way to raise the bar on the industry, to raise the water in the ocean. The best way to raise the boats in the ocean is to raise the water. And that way all the boats rise together." And there are many, many good players, good companies, good leaders in the industry. And this is a forum to be able to feature not only people within our company, especially those with success stories, but also feature people outside of our company. And we've had many, many great examples of that in this call. And this is not normal. This is not usual because certain companies are kind of afraid to bring other leaders from other companies. I don't know. They live in fear, I guess. I just have such an abundant mentality that I don't care. It just doesn't bother me because we can learn from so many different people. So thank you for supporting the A team. A team stands for Action Team, and it's an opportunity to learn so a lot of things about how to enroll better, how to overcome fears, how to learn the tips to success. It's just a catch-all for everything good. And we're going to start the call off with somebody that I've been following on Facebook. I know I stalk people. I stalk all of you. You're just all so if you turn me in, I'm guilty. But I've been following Sandy. First of all, she for her weight loss journey, which is really unbelievable. I'm going to show you before and after picture, and it's truly impressive. But also, I want her to focus tonight on her success in the business. But let me first show you this before and after because it kind of is amazing. So for those of you who don't believe that our products can have value, just an example of what a transformation might look like. Now, granted, I'm not that brave. Even if I lost the weight, I promise you I would not be able to wear that after picture outfit. But man, I'll tell you what, that is just so impressive. So Sandy Lee, are you there on the call? You can
Yes, I'm right here.
Perfect. So Sandy, we are excited to hear from you tonight, but you just achieved the rank of vice president. You're one of our newest vice presidents. So obviously you've had an amazing journey with your transformation story in weight loss, but also you've had quite a transformation story in business. So tell us whatever you want to tell us tonight. What's on your mind? I know you have some great energy. I'm excited to hear from you.
Oh yes, this is SoCal vibe. So we're gonna, beat this up with this energy. So I've actually been in the business ever since it started, but I'm proud to be a part of the Tough Times organization. As many of you know, Duke and Sheila. If it weren't for them, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. And what was different was that this pandemic ironically opened my eyes to a lot of things. So I never really took the business really serious from the very beginning. But I think there's just a sense of growing up, and you kind of have to go through your own experiences to realize that you need something better, you need something bigger in you. So for myself, my dad was unfortunately diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer, and I didn't take that seriously until this pandemic. I was actually furloughed, and I had a full-time career. And once I was let go, I was like, I have to make money. I have to figure something out. And at the same time, taking care of my dad is hard because medication with chemotherapy is just, the prices is going up. So in the back of my mind, I always knew that the business is always there. And something just told me, I can feel God telling me, this is your time. And at the same time, your girl is real chunky. And I was like, if I'm trying to blow up in the business, I have to be the product of the product. And I know Duke and Sheila always taught us, we have to be the person, the go-to person. People really have to believe that, these products not only work, but we're here to help other people as well. And I really saw that through taking care of my dad. And something just hit me where I was like, if I keep going where I'm going to miss the events of taking care of my dad and really being there with him, because I don't know how long he has, because, you know, there's no cure for cancer, but at least whatever I can do to help him and even support him, like through the products we do have, maybe can just help. Or maybe if I can just, you know, do something for myself and like make something, I can spend more time with him. So that's where it started. But something just really, it's like magnificent, where like when life kind of like hits you and like puts you in this trance, you're kind of, you kind of reflect where you're currently at in your life. And for me, I felt like I was kind of like not heading where I wanted to be. And at the same time, I was like, okay, if I want to be different, I have to, you know, I got to start somewhere. So it started off with these amazing products. I knew ARX was a vehicle, and I knew there was just so many things that, you know, the founders, even Deanna, like put so much hard work and effort. And I was like, okay, if I'm really going to show it to my family and even like to my friends, I gotta do my part. So I was really like, I really honed in on the products, and with the help of Dr. Marlissa, of course, her guidance, her help, and of course, being like my best friends were always there for me. Like, for example, like Lily, Megan, and Martha, they were always there for me to support and guide me, especially during this tough time. And also having the right guidance like John Maturin, who's been there for me since day one. All of that, you know, and especially the girls who believed in me, I wouldn't be where I'm at. But the reason why, like, I started, seriously, God, it was just a blessing, but God has been blessing me for the past couple of months through this community. And I give huge shout outs to Sheila Tuptim for starting something called Better Your Best Body. And it was a mission for her to really empower women and to make sure they can feel their prime. And I was so motivated and inspired by that. So that really took it off. And I give it all to, we have these group of ladies called the Boss Babes. Right now, we are just catering to so many women. And it's like, right now, I kid you not, it's like, it went from 4 to 300, and Sheila did that. And I just feel so blessed to be, you know, alongside with her to even help her with these ladies. Like, I mean, shout out to just 10 of them. I know there's C. Lily, there's Shayna, there's Crystal, there's Courtney, there's Lonnie, there's Angel, there's Lynn, and then there's also Desiree and also Josephine. Just want to give them all a shout out, because if it weren't for them and people who believe in me, I wouldn't be where I'm at. So this is just a, you know, a small step for where I'm currently going, but I wouldn't be where I'm at because of them. So that's the business side.
That is so awesome. I've had a request to put the picture back up for a second because people couldn't get their camera fast enough. That honestly, Sandy, congratulations. It's just, you know, it's not really all about appearance, as we all know, even though that's a big part of our lives, and we want to be comfortable in our own bodies, and no matter what that is. But the beautiful thing is the health side of it, and what that means to your energy level and what you're able to do now. You know, I know when talking to Richard Hawkins, who's one of our weight loss champions as well, and lost like 100 over 100 pounds, which is one of you now. But the his journey, just being able now to get on a treadmill. He hadn't been on a treadmill since high school, and things like that. What have you noticed, like a difference in just not your appearance as much, but what that's meant to be at optimal health right now?
For me, because I've always been athletic, so I always took advantage of that, because I was like, okay, I have a fast metabolism. Like, I don't need any products. I don't need anything to get to my prime. But wow, these RX products, I'm telling you, like, even I'm like, friggin', I'm in like 2 hours of sleep, but there's something about like the Nutrify products, even having everything all together. I have so much energy. Like, I mean, I'm pretty loud as is, but let me tell you, when I'm like on point with these products every single day, I feel like a whole brand new person. Not only that, but it makes me feel better. I feel like I can wake up, attack the day. And the great thing about it is that, you know, when you start to really take care of your body, you really do see it. And you start to see like the goodness in life, because you feel better. You start to wake up feeling brighter. You make decisions a lot, you know, quicker and wiser, because it's just like, now you have your mental focus. So I would definitely say that with the products, it just helped me in like, I don't know, in like all aspects of my life. It's not even physical anymore. Like, now that I see that there's so much potential in the products. It can help so many people, and I can see why ARGs is like blowing up in all over the countries, because everybody does need it. And especially during this pandemic right now, we really need to take care of ourselves. And if it weren't for these products to help us get to that level, how can we, fight a pandemic like this? So, just hats off to you guys, because if it weren't for you, like, we wouldn't be here.
Well, vice versa, we wouldn't either. So, Sandy, thank you for being with us tonight. Thanks for sharing your testimonial, both from a product standpoint as well as business. And, Vice President, that's pretty awesome. But you know what I always say is good start. Okay. Thank you again for being with the call tonight. So as most of you know, I usually feature a leader, and tonight we have the privilege of hearing a legend in the industry. He's been a master distributor a number of times. He's helped form companies a number of times. He is truly a legend in the industry, and I had a chance to meet him. I've known of him for quite some time, but I had a chance to meet him just over about a month ago, and have been so impressed with not only his experience in the industry and his leadership, but just his heart. I mean, he is just such a good guy. So please welcome our guest for tonight, Del Williams. Del, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me, Rick?
I can. I can see you. You look great.
Hey, thanks. Good to see you again.
You too. Yeah, it's. I've really enjoyed starting to work with you and finding all the things we have in common. But maybe you could share a little bit about your background, just to give people a perspective first, and then we'll get into some Q&A.
Sure. Well, I'm really honored to be on, and I just think the world of Rick. I've always known of him and all the great things he's doing, and so it's been nice to really meet with him several times in the last few weeks. Also enjoyed Sandy's testimony. Thanks, Sandy, for that enthusiastic. I love it when people are excited and have success. That's awesome. I grew up on a farm in Idaho, and when I was just a young boy, my mother died, and my father raised 5 boys on the farm. So the things we learned on the farm was work and hard work. And the only way we could get out of that work was to either be on the high school ball teams or go to church meetings. So all 5 of us played 4 sports year round and never missed a church meeting. So I knew that part of my motivation was to get out of work. But I learned the law of the harvest, and I learned that you can't plant potatoes and get corn. And that's true all through life. You can't plant even thoughts, and I'm going to talk about, of one type and harvest something different. And so with that, I remember one time I was out riding the tractor. I mean, I did it a lot, and I'd be going on this long field plowing, and I saw an airplane come up all the way across the sky and disappear on the other side, and I'm still going down the same row. And I decided then, I think I was about 9 or 10. I don't know what those guys do. They're going somewhere, and I want to be a pilot someday. So those things have been great influence in my mind. On the farm, I learned to work. On the ball teams, I learned teamwork, which I found you can do so much more as a team than you can as an individual. That became very important to me. I was able to get an athletic scholarship to go to the university of my choice, and I had dreams at that time to become an NBA All-Star, but I realized fairly fast that at 5'8", that was probably not in my future. So I started focusing on other things. When I was 21 years old, in the spring of 1963, I know that's a long time ago, I had the good fortune to be introduced to an 80-year-old gentleman, and he changed my life. He helped me understand who I wanted to be, who I was, and what I needed to do to get whatever I wanted. His name was Napoleon Hill, and he had heard about me and wanted to hear my story. And so I told him my story, and he hired me on the spot to teach the laws of success and science of personal achievement. So I was fortunate to work with him the last 7 years of his life. He died in 1980 at 87 years old, but he was a huge impact. And of course, he's got books and tapes and all kinds of things that remind me of the times I had with him. Here's the one thing that I remember more than anything else. I had told him my story a couple of times, all about how poor we were. Some of you can't imagine this, I'm sure, but the five brothers, and my father grew up in it's only a 640 square foot home. We had no running water and no women in the house. You can't imagine my circumstances, but it created within me a desire to have more. I just wanted to have more and to give more to other people. So as I started working with Napoleon Hill, he says, I'll give you a suggestion. He said, if you want to change your circumstances, you need to change. Mm. The world's full of people that try to change their circumstances and fail miserably. And Napoleon Hill, as you probably know, interviewed some 25,000 people from 1908 to 1928. He was hired by Andrew Carnegie, who was an immigrant from Scotland, had to borrow money to get here. And 45 years later, he's the world's richest man and president of the United States Steel Corporation. And he felt he had discovered an economic formula that if people would do what he did, they could have anything they wanted in life. And so he wanted someone to go out and research that. And he told him that Napoleon Hill, that he would introduce him to the most successful people he knew, which turned out to be 504 very, very successful people. And he was to interview many people who didn't reach their goals. And from that, come up with what they did, what they didn't do. And that's what he wrote in 1925, first published 8-volume called The Law of Success. And when he was working as an assistant to the President of the United States back in the 30s, he was asked to write a summary of those books. And that's what most people know him by, is Think and Grow Rich. Now, I have to admit, I had not, before I go on to that, he said, you have to change. And I said, okay, I'll do it. And he said, no, I mean, change everything. You have to change the way you think. You have to change the way you act. You have to change your habits. And if you'll do that and do that correctly, you can have anything you want in life. Well, that was pretty exciting to me, but I had a lot of different goals back then. I was just going to the university and looking for a wife and all those type of things. But I was able to teach that philosophy. And shortly after that, 1969, a few years later, I was drafted to go to the United States Army. I got out of that, got in the Air Force, got a deferment for a couple of years, got a master's degree, and then I became a pilot. And so I realized a lifetime dream of becoming a pilot. I flew for 11 years with the United States Air Force and 20 plus years with Delta Airlines. And so I've seen the world and loved almost every minute of it. Been to over 70 countries that I can count, and found wonderful people all over the world. So it was in that year that I was faced with a kind of a crisis. And, you know, crisis in our life kind of make us really focus. And I was going off to war. They paid us less than $600 a month at that time as a fighter pilot in Vietnam. And I couldn't make my budget fix that. I couldn't find a calculator that would make that work. And so I needed about $300 a month more just to survive for my wife and new baby, and taking them to California. And then I was going on to Vietnam. And so Napoleon Hill had taught us how to do that. So I started doing it for a couple of weeks. It happened. And I got introduced to network marketing, didn't know what it was, and got started. So that's kind of my history. I've been now doing network marketing for 50 years. As Rick was kind enough to say, I've had some success with some companies. I've sat on every seat in the network marketing industry, you know, from an owner and an investor to corporate. I was a vice president a couple of times in the 70s. But I love working out in the field with people where I can share my philosophy. So that's kind of a overview of my life.
You know, the thing that just was a revelation to me just now, I remember hearing some Napoleon Hill, they were probably wire recorders back then, but you know, with the scratchy background and him speaking. And it seemed so distant to me. You know, I mean, yes, he was much older than me, and I was alive when he was there, and those dates that you, unfortunately, those dates that you brought up, I was alive then. But you lived a rich life, and he lived a rich life, and there's an intersection there. We're not that far removed from those situations. So thank you for sharing that. A couple of things that I wanted to ask you about, because I know you've seen it all, and just kind of like I feel like I have, and there's so many different opportunities and companies out there. First of all, somebody says to you, "Oh, network marketing, one of those things." What? First of all, what are your feelings about network marketing in general?
Well, what Napoleon Hill did is help me understand what my chief aim in life was. That was a huge thing, to figure out what it was I really want to do more than anything else in life. And then that becomes kind of a North Star. And so it makes it easier for decisions. If whatever you're going to do is taking you towards that, it's probably a good thing. If it's taking you another way, it's easy to say no. Of all the things I've seen, Rick, and remember, I was a farmer, basically a pilot. One of my biggest goals was to help people raise their circumstances so they didn't have to go through some of the things I did as a kid. Although, I look back, it probably wasn't that bad, but it seemed pretty bad at the time. And I never had, even though I was doing well in sports and was a student body president, I never had one person ever stay at my house. Because I didn't want them to see what a mess I was in. So that motivated me to want to help other people. And I'll just tell you one experience, maybe that'll help understand it. I had a tendency when I was in high school to be late to school, and we got marched down, and I'd have to go see the principal sometime. And I was the student body president, so he'd kind of lecture me. And so one time I'm really pushing the time, and it was snowing. It was about 6 inches of new snow, and it was snowing. And just ahead of me, I'm running to get to the school. I might make it by the bell. And some kids come up behind this girl. She was a little overweight, and she wasn't the most popular girl. And she had a bunch of books under her arm. And as they ran by, they just kind of hit those books. And as she tried to catch them, they just went all over the snow. And my father was a great man, and he told us, no matter what happens, somebody needs help, you stop and help them. Well, I'm thinking, I'm going to be late. Oh, I should help her. Okay. So I helped her clean up her books and all that. Years later, when I was leaving to go back east for a couple of years, she came to, when I gave my farewell talk, and she came and she hung around. And I was never that good a friend to her. I mean, I'd say hi to her and things like that. And she waited till it's about everybody's gone. She come up and gave me a big hug, and she knew I was going to be gone for 2 years. And she said, "You're my very best friend."
Wow.
And I thought, holy smokes, I think I have challenges. If I'm her best friend, I don't do anything for her. I picked up her books. I say hi to her. I was always polite to her. And so I made a promise at that time. I'm going to do what I can to help other people. So to answer your question, I have not found anything in my many years that can help more people than network marketing. If you can find a good network marketing company, has good values, they have things that you like, and I'll just tell you, this is one of my favorite sayings. Those who achieve greatness in this life are not necessarily the most intelligent and talented, but at least once in their lifetime, they recognized the golden opportunity and seized it. And so to do that, you need to do three things. You have to recognize it's for you, and then you get all in and you do massive action. And I've seen people accomplish things that are unbelievable because they believe in themselves, they believe in the company, and they believe in helping people. And so that's a vehicle that's not available to everybody. You can't start your own business. I couldn't teach a lot of people to be a pilot or be a farmer, and probably nobody would want to be. And so it's a vehicle that's been awesome to me. I love helping people. I think I've got friends all over the world. I could make a phone call and they'd pick me up in their rickshaw or their limousine, whatever the case would be. And we just be good friends because we care about each other and each other's families.
Wow, that's great. One of the other things that was coming to my mind, and you and I have had a conversation about RX's Bill of Rights and how unique that is in the industry. What share with a couple of things that that we have shared about why that is so important, just at the root level.
Yeah. Well, I from the late 70s, I was on a mission to try and find companies that you could evaluate that could do something and not go out of business in a few years or whatever. And as I started really doing that, I was really looking for a distributor bill of rights, because when I started out, I think we had 2 pages of guidelines in my first network marketing company, and that's grown into hundreds of pages of policies and procedures. And almost everything is kind of against the distributor. Now, in fairness to owners, because I was on that side of the fence a little too, is that there's people on our side that deserve to maybe be treated a little different than others. But in general, I think people want to build a business, help people, promote some products they like, earn an income for their family, and help other people. And I started running into these policies that if you do this, do this, and I started standing up against that. In fact, one company this century that I was with for 7 years, I wouldn't sign their policy and procedure until they looked, they didn't want to know why, and I circled the 3 things I wouldn't sign. And after a week or so, they agreed to waive those for me, as long as I wouldn't tell anybody else. Well, that was good for me, but it's not good for anybody else. And so I just think that if you can get the corporate people, the distributors, and everybody kind of in the same value place, has the same philosophy, and you don't have to have those things that will take a person's business away from them or something like that if they're seen at somebody else's meeting. And so those are things I really value. And so when I've known Tim for many years, we were always after each other, but we never got together, until recently. And so it's very exciting to have and meet the owners of this company and their philosophy. It just, it fits with mine. So I think they're geniuses. When you get people to agree with you, they got to be smart, right? And so, it makes it so you're not looking over your shoulder, and it makes it so you can really help people and work together. So yeah, it's awesome.
Thank you. There's one of the purposes of this call, and if you hear in the beginning, you heard that this is called the action team or the A-team call, and it's about learning skills or tips to success or overcoming fears, overcoming objections. And so many people have, when I interview people and I ask them where they say, I'm not achieving the success that I think I should be. And I say, okay, well, let's talk about that. And usually there's a breakdown in that early process, either having enough leads or perfecting a greeting or being able to approach people or strangers. What are some of the things that you have found to be successful, and maybe address it from a belief standpoint too? Yeah,
I would say that it's, I'm going to go into a couple of points before I answer that, just because to me, it's very apparent that we live in a very negative world. We did a research back in the 90s, and it was a lot of people, it was mostly from Southern California, but I think it's true all over the world and certainly all over the United States. And this is the fact. So if you want to write something down, this is what I have you write down. 9 out of 10 people, 92% of the time, their dominant thoughts, which is a thought that you think of often with emotion, is about things they don't want. So 9 out of 10 people. So if you're sitting somewhere and you can see 10 people, 9 of them, 92% of the time, are going to be thinking about their negative things happening in their life. Scientists tell us now that the average person thinks 60 to 90,000 thoughts a day. But 90% of those are repeat thoughts. And they're usually about doubt and worry and fear and those type of negative things. So as I've traveled around the world and given discussions, I like to involve people. I ask, what is the worst addiction in this part of the world? Hmm. And we'll have discussions. It usually runs pretty much the same everywhere. They talk about drug addiction, pornography, you know, just a lot of different problems in the world. And if they ask me, then I'll tell them what I think it is. Over the years, I've evolved to where I think the worst addiction in the world is negative thinking, because everything starts with a thought. Napoleon Hill, in his book, Think and Grow Rich, before he lists his 13 principles, he said, thoughts are things. And thoughts, when mixed with emotions, become powerful. They become magnetic, and they draw to us similar thoughts. And so I've learned over the years, I believe that there's two things that separate the human beings from all other life on this planet. And one is imagination and the other is choice. And so with that imagination and choice, we can basically create our own world if we really focus in on doing it. And that's what Napoleon Hill was all about. He learned that it was the people who had a burning desire to do something, whatever that was, whatever was motivating them. Me, it was to get out of the farm and become a pilot, but it was really other things that I learned. And if you have that burning desire and faith, if you got something you can believe in that's not there yet, that's where imagination fit. That's how I learned it in sports. I didn't read the book Think and Grow Rich until after my interview with Napoleon Hill, but I had been living it for 5 years. My brother had taught me how I was winning every basketball game in my mind before I'd go to sleep and when I'd wake up, and passing the winning touchdown and all of those type of things. But it all started with a thought, and it was hard to change that thought because your mind runs wild with you. But if you keep doing it, so basically it goes this way. It's, if you think a thought enough times, it has to express itself in an action. Mm. Actions that are repeated become habits. Habits make up our character, and character is who we are. So it all starts with a thought. Now, when people go to change a bad habit that they want to change, they try to change the action, and they'll lose almost every time unless they go back and start thinking the way that they want to, and then start acting. So to answer your question, I think the hardest thing for people, because there's so many things pulling us all the time, family and just things happening, that we don't focus in on what we want. It was very interesting that Napoleon Hill found that all 504 of those most successful people did several things the same. One, whatever the goal was, they wrote it down, very definitive, exactly what it was going to be. They would give themselves a deadline when to have that accomplished. Mm. And they would read their goal over every morning when they got up and the last thing before they went to bed. That's so important because the subconscious mind is more susceptible as you're going to sleep and as you're waking up at any other time. And so if you're planning those thoughts, what you want, what you're going to do, person you're going to be, all of those type of things, it gets into your subconscious mind and it starts to grow like a seed, and it's planted, and you can develop faith in something. And so every time I ever talk for or with people in a company, I feel a responsibility to help them raise their belief level in three things. One is in products or service, whatever they're doing. Two is in the company, probably reverse order. And three is in themselves. And that's the most important because the company and products are there. But most of us don't have that. I failed at network marketing. My first one, I was fortunate. I was very successful. And then I had 2 or 3 things back in the 70s and early 80s that failed. The company failed. You know, I failed because the company failed and had to start over. That's when I started to become kind of a consultant. I was an airline pilot by then. I could fly and check things out. And there's things that you can look for in companies to hopefully not get involved with somebody that's not going to have a long run and give you the opportunity that you want. So to answer your question, probably it's this. The most helpful thing I got from Napoleon Hill and also from David Bird, who teaches these type of things too, he's from Texas, is is everything starts with a dream. And so he would encourage you to set a 5-year every year on your birth. I do it on my birthday and do it New Year's, whatever time. Every year, sit down and say, okay, if everything goes right for me, where will I be in 5 years? And that's just dream. You write down all the things you think you want and pictures of it. And remember, everybody in your life is going to be 5 years older. And so you go through that process. And all that is to help you do that when you come to a year, you pick out what part of that you're going to do, and then you have that yearly goal. And you write that down, and that's before you all the time. And you're reading it morning and night, and it becomes kind of a part of you. You have to be careful sometimes because you sometimes think you've achieved it before you have. And that's part of the process. That's the emotional part. My oldest daughter, who's now in her 50s, but she won the national gymnastics champion for the United States in 1986. And I had her doing that. She worked hard for 7 years before she won it, but she would see herself doing perfect beam routines, perfect all the time. And every once in a while, you know, I'd get up, we'd have breakfast, and I'd see her grin, and I said, did you win the national championship last night? She'd say, come on, Dad, you know. But I knew she did because that's what I did. And it came to fruition because she believed it and she kept doing it. Even her coach said, you know, on a given day, there's probably 5 or 6, maybe 10 kids that is good or better than her. And I said, yeah, but nobody's better at the meets. And he said, yeah, you're right. And I said, well, isn't that when you want to be at your best? That's where that belief level comes in. Instead of fearing you're going to fall off that beam when you do a back flip or something, you know, you've believed it so much that it's a habit. It's a habit. So if you do that, then you go down to monthly plans, and you always have that plan written out before the month starts, not when it's halfway through and you're writing a diary. You're what you want to accomplish, what you want to do. And I think this is leading up to the things, because that people, and so you pick high payoff activities and key performance indicators, way to measure if you're progressing on that. And then the most important of all is daily activities. What do I do daily that'll help me get my monthly plans? And what have I done monthly to get to my yearly goal? And then you can dream out again with wherever you are and do the same thing again. But it's getting into those habits and thinking positively, assuming, and see, psychologists say that we're drawn towards our expectations. The problem with this, that's good or bad. And so if people are dreaming their expectations, everything's going to be bad, they can't pay the rent, every time they have a Big Mac, it goes right to my hips, you know, whatever those things are, that's part of you. And so you got to start taking control, because the imagination's part. But when you make a choice, make the choice in your benefit. You know, every time I go through weight loss, I get a picture out when I was running marathons and I weighed a good weight, and I picture that and I start looking at that every day, and that helps me stay on the program till I lose the weight I want. It's looking at that. If I was like that once, I can do it again. And you know, so I don't know if that answers your question, but if you pick out the activities that you're weak in and want to become strong in, do it that way. Bring it down to daily activities and then do those things every day. I find most people, and I used to be this way at one time in my life, is that if I have 5 things to do today, I'd like to get the little things out of the road so I can put my focus on the big thing. And then the day would run out and I'd say, okay, that'll go over to the next day. And I do the same thing. And so it's not sharpening pencils and organizing things and stuff that are productive. It's talking to people. It's inviting people. It's caring about people. It's not the first time you've talked to them in 2 years and you're trying to recruit them. It's kind of, how's your family? And you know, you know what I'm talking about, Rick. It's people are the most important thing. Distributors are the most important thing to a company. If a company treats us that way, then we should do all those things and really build a good business.
So valuable. There's a lot of great comments and people are really getting a lot from this, Dale. So thank you for all of this. I'm going to, one of the things that I know we share, a belief in the ultimate potential for greatness that is within all of us. I embraced this belief as a young child that we are all children of God. and or you know, that's my belief and yours as well. And but all children of a maker, a single maker, and because of that, we all have greatness within us. And so many people have been beaten down throughout life, and they lose that belief and they lose that passion. But just as you close, just a thought based upon that, or where, you know, listening to what I just said, where that takes your mind or your heart as a closing kind of vote of confidence to people who are out there that are doubting themselves.
Well, that's such a great great thought, and here's my thoughts on it. I think that there's so much animosity and hate and things in the world today, and one of the things that Napoleon Hill taught me that I really embraced was that the law of attraction allows each person to create the world basically they want to live in.
Mm.
And so that works for every race, color, religion, anybody. It's what you think. Obviously, eventually things have to all be based on truth, but anybody can accomplish what they want. The thing I feel bad about the philosophy that Napoleon Hill gave us is the bad guys are winning out. They're using those principles to become very successful in bad things. But it's up to the individual. It's up to us to become who we want to become, and to do those things to do it. And all of these principles. I mean, desire doesn't care where you live, who you are, what rank you have. It's open to all of us, as does faith. And I will tell you, the key element of the things that Napoleon Hill taught to me is autosuggestion. Once you decide you have a desire to do something and you have faith that you can accomplish it, autosuggestion, or what we'd probably more call positive affirmations today, are the things that help people overcome whatever challenges they have in life. And having SMART goals, you know, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. But everything had a time to it. Napoleon Hill said, you know, time is important. You give yourself a deadline. And I know in school, I was a procrastinator. Then I was doing a ton the last few weeks to try and pass and move on to the next grade or whatever. And so it's learning to be able to kind of do that all the time, daily activities, focusing on things you want. And the mastermind principle is great, because if you get people together with like minds, like many of the people here, I think are all I was very interested to see them come on and see how they're saying hello and all that. And they're good, positive, uplifting people. And so they can make a mark in the world. And if we get 2 or 3 of us together, working together, we go to a place where not one of us can do together. The mastermind takes you to another mindset that's greater than any individual one. And that's what I see in this company, and the owners and the managers and stuff, is they're doing that. And we can do that too. We can do it in our families. We can do it in our communities. We can do it wherever we are, businesses. And so the main thing I would say is to never give up and keep focus, because there's so many things pulling us from our focus. And that's why we say it every morning and every night. We get back to thinking, okay, what's the most important thing to me now? And that's whatever anybody wants. I would like to say one thing about Napoleon Hill. His book, Think and Grow Rich. A lot of people say, Del, that's all based on money. I want you to know, he told me, he said, Del, it's think and grow rich. And in reality, it's think and whatever you want. This was during the Depression. Nobody wanted to read a book unless it was how they could get a job or get money to, you know, feed their family or whatever. And so Think and Grow Rich caught on. Wow, I wonder what that dude's talking about. And it changed a lot of people's lives. 2 presidents of the United States had him as consultants, and even Roosevelt, when he gave his fireside chats, his one that's being quoted often now is, we have nothing to fear but fear itself. Napoleon Hill wrote that for him, and he wrote most of his talks. And so it had a great influence. And his influence, while I was at the Napoleon Hill Academy, was to get this philosophy into the school system. That was the whole purpose of the Napoleon Hill Academy. And I met with lots of teachers and principals, and that you couldn't get through the bureaucracy of what class do we take out, home ec, PE, math, what, you know. And so it never did. So then we just started teaching it to individuals and groups and corporations and so on. But it's a philosophy that anybody can use. It just starts out with a thought and believing in it, and keep believing, and then start doing the activities that'll solidify that. And when you get those habits, life gets easy if you get the right habits. So David Bird, I quoted him a little bit earlier, but he has what he calls his definition of to next level growth. That's what most all of us want. Wherever we're at, we'd like to go that next level. And that is the process meaning what you believe and how you live it, the process of making right choices consistently over a sustained period of time. And once you start doing that, life gets a lot better. I mean, it doesn't mean that you don't have problems and challenges, but you can have peace because you know you're doing the things to take you next level growth, helping other people, and we can change the world one person at a time, I believe.
Fantastic, Dale. Thank you so much for being on the call. It's such an honor to get to know you, and love working together with you as we have. Sandy, wow, what a great way to start the call off. Great energy. That Southern California SoCal vibe. Thank you for sharing that with us. Anthony as well. Always thank you for helping me on these calls, my co-pilot as I call you. And to all of you, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. It's a Thursday night. You could be doing a lot of things, but you're here with us. So thank you for that. Stop the recording. I'm going to unmute the line so you can express your appreciation. Thank you. Good night, everybody.